Symmetry is beautiful. We see it everywhere. When sitting behind the wheel of a car, admiring the architecture, watching movies, or searching for a beautiful partner. It can be familiar, frightening, or even deadly. Once, it almost destroyed all matter in the universe. Now, you'll learn why symmetry and asymmetry affect our lives, as well as the life of everything on Earth, and why the universe divided into right and left. Yo! Jan. In this video, we're gonna talk about very interesting stuff which hasn't been covered by anybody on YouTube as deeply as we did. We've been working on this video for 2 months, and at the end of the issue, you'll probably act like, whoa! Get ready for complicated and challenging stuff, which is so fascinating. Now, I want you to meet someone. Everybody? This is Kubi. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not a snail lover. It's just that somebody gave me it as a present a very long time ago. And honestly, I still don't know what to do with him. It's been 11 years since I started feeding him my fruit and taking care of him. But why? I don't understand. 11 years, Kubi! My god, how's that possible? Even Wikipedia says Lisa Akatina lives for 5 to 6 years. Well, 10 is the maximum, and then it's the end. Anyway, he's a super duper old grandpa snail who seems to be immortal. Yeah. But it's not about him today. It's about his shell. See, it's twisted to the right, just like usual ones. Usual ones, but not all of them. Shells can be twisted to the left, though the chance is 1 in a million. That's what happened to Jeremy, for example. You've probably heard of him. He looks like an ordinary snail, but his shell spiral is twisted to the left. Oh, come on! Who the hell would care about his shell twisting? Yeah. But what a challenge it is to pair up for such snails. Individuals with different types of shells can't have sex, simply because their genitals are mirrored. It's as impossible as shaking your left hand with your right hand or attaching them completely. They seem to be the same, but it's impossible. Jeremy is a lucky man. Twitter users started spreading the hashtag #SnailLove. It got necessary attention, and Jeremy found his love, with whom they've got babies, whose shells, by the way, turned out to be usual, right-twisted. This case made me think, why does this all happen? When did the world get divided into right and left? And why is it such a big deal? We've got quite deep in our search for answers. And now, I want to tell you what, as it turns out, is the hidden meaning of symmetry. Well, Jeremy's asymmetry is a rather weird thing, but not the most surprising in this video. Let's clarify once and for all, what is asymmetry and what can it be? If you twist an object, reflect it in a mirror, or even twist it on all axes, and its appearance doesn't change, the object is symmetrical. Okay, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional symmetry is easy to imagine. But what about the symmetry of a 57-dimensional object? Naturally, we can only see it in projections on the plane. But this is not the most striking thing. The most striking is that this symmetry exists in 248 dimensions. Whoa, 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 right, whoa. This all reminds me of a day in the life of Dr. Strange. But actually, our mind isn't cool enough to imagine such a thing. While for mathematicians, there is nothing impossible. In real life, similar symmetry has been found in the electrons of cobalt and niobium crystals. We humans are symmetrical too, at least in appearance. Or just try to be. Our left side resembles our right side, but there are organisms with more unusual symmetry. For single-celled organisms, bottom and top, left and right, have no meaning at all. They just float in their solutions, demonstrating the most perfect symmetry. Spherical. Any cut through the center of their bodies divides them into identical parts. Perfectionists, I've got something for you. Something called radiolaria. Look at these beautiful, intimidating creatures. I've always been fascinated by their pictures and encyclopedias. But they keep this balloon form only while being very small. Once they gain mass, gravity makes their form change. Such creatures move to another level of symmetry, radial. This is when the body remains the same if you rotate it around its axis by a certain angle. This is what happens with starfish, hydras, and jellyfish. While a dog can only be rotated once to return to its original position, a starfish can be rotated 5 times. What a boring life with little movement. But it also has certain advantages. Look, this is the jellyfish Aurelia aurita. Its larva can swim even after losing its limbs. It simply redistributes the remaining ones and regains the symmetry. It can do it over and over again, even when there are only 2 blades left. It looks like symmetry is simply necessary for them to live. But in order to climb the evolutionary ladder, they need to move faster, catch more prey, and run, not to become prey themselves. As a result, the front half of the body becomes different from the back half. Sensory organs and the mouth move to the front half, and all that remains symmetrical are the left and right halves. This is bilateral symmetry, and it's perfect for moving forward. Turbellaria was the first who figured this out, as long as 500 million years ago. Human beings are also bilaterally symmetrical. The left and right halves of our body become symmetrical while still in the fetal state, and this is explained by a complex mechanism, which was discovered by this man, Alan Turing. You probably know him from the Turing test and the breaking of the Enigma machine. He suggested that if living tissue has 2 substances affecting each other's production, they can create unique patterns. That's how mathematics explained the origin of the spots and stripes on animal skins, the clotting of blood, and the appearance of tumors. Surprisingly, the symmetry of the fetal body is subject to the same laws. There are 2 groups of proteins. One is unevenly distributed along the length of the body, the other along its width. It's these proteins that turn this into this, and this into this. These same proteins determine the number of our fingers. That's how they fuse into the familiar outline of a hand, and in just 2 days, we have the finished fingers. 48 hours for this lifelong joy, Della and Ella. But sometimes the mechanism fails, and symmetry appears where it's not meant to. It reminds me of something like this. Not really good looking, agree? Many species, from fruit flies to humans, choose the most symmetrical partners. Such individuals have fewer glitches in their genetic program, which means their offsprings are likely to be healthy. Look at how handsome it is, huh? Looks as if it was photoshopped, but it's just the perfect swat green toad. One study showed that women tend to reach orgasms more often with more symmetrical men, regardless of their experience. But there is a symmetry that's not available to living creatures. Diamonds are given this structure by nature, as well as pyrite crystals. Also, natural symmetry is typical of viruses. Yes, viruses are not really living organisms. They have genes and they evolve, but they don't have cells and metabolism functions. Therefore, it's more correct to call them organisms on the borderline of living. Their specific nature, which is half alive, is the reason for their beautiful and strange shapes, like spirals or icosahedrons. With this asymmetry, viruses solve a purely mathematical problem of the economy: how to construct their bodies in such a way that more resources are left to take over other cells. For example, alien-like bacteriophages have combined both spirals and regular polyhedrons. Within this icosahedron, they hide their genetic weapons and use their spirals to inject their genes into bacteria, forcing them to create thousands of copies of themselves. Well, and what about plants? They don't seem to obey the laws of symmetry. Just look at this. Total chaos and mess. But not really. Plants are subject to a very different law. The law of fractals, or fractal symmetry. I think you've all seen fractals. These are shapes whose form is similar to the form of their parts. Something similar to what people see when being on psychoactive substances. Here's my favorite example of a fractal: the Mandelbrot set. It's a structure with an infinite amount of fine detail. You can zoom in on the edge of the fractal forever, and it will continue to reveal even smaller details. Just look at how beautiful it is. But why does nature need fractals? This symmetry allows distributing resources to the most distant parts of the body without wasting energy and space. It can be distributing water over the body or delivering air to the lungs and blood. The fractals of different origins turned out to be so similar that scientists managed to turn leaf veins into blood vessels by transplanting heart tissue into them. You noticed that, right? You see, it turns out that symmetry on all levels, from plants to animals, from rivers to electrical discharges in the atmosphere, works according to the same laws. And we realize that symmetry seems to have kind of greater meaning than just right and left. But why then is not everything in the world symmetrical? Yeah, why then are there always right and left sides? And how do molecules distinguish those right and left sides? The left is where the heart is. Undeniable fact, right? Actually, it's not. The thing is that initially, the embryo has two symmetrical hearts, but 22 days after conception, they merge into one and shift to the left. This happens because the special intracellular cilia in embryos distill the Turing substance from the right half to the left half. But it may be distilled to the right half in case you win the genetic lottery and your organs are mirrored. It happens 1 in 20,000. Some of you guys watching this video now may be one of them, so please let me know if there's anyone out there with mirrored organs. I'm really curious. The heart is on the right and the liver is on the left. I don't know if that's cool or not. All I know is that it's not harmful. If the inversion is absolute and the work of all the organs is coordinated, then nothing prevents each other from working. Everything is fine. That's the feature of Enrique Iglesias and actress Catherine O'Hara that starred in Home Alone. Remember? Yes, it can be dangerous. Singer Donny Osmond was close to death due to the mirrored organ arrangement. The doctors didn't know about his feature, so it took a very long time until they found a mirrored appendix. But here's the interesting thing. What is right and left at the most fundamental level? What is right and left at the level of particles? Yeah, I'll try to explain it to you on my fingers. Literally, if you make a handprint similar to those on the Avenue of Stars with your left hand and try to put your right hand into it, it won't work, right? This is because they don't match. Such objects are called chiral. Let's see what it means. In the mirror, a right-handed person turns into a left-handed and vice versa, and the objects become incompatible. This is chirality. It's typical of plants and animals. There are right-twisted and left-twisted shells and even right and left beaks of crossbills. So, various substances, such as the amino acids composing the proteins contained in our bodies, can also be mirrored. Despite the identical composition, their structure is mirrored opposite. Some are left and others are right. Their appearance is similar, while their properties are so different that one can be a cute dog and the other a wolf. Like, for example, the penicillamine molecule. The left one serves as a cure for heavy metal poisoning, and the right one is a poison molecule that causes blindness. And with all of this, they're twins. Their actions are opposite because they have different ways of clinging to the molecules in our bodies. To see how it works, try shaking someone's left hand with your right one. Questionable handshake. So, you see what I'm talking about. The difference between right and left-handed molecules is so strong that any of us can smell and taste it. Take an orange and a lemon. Smell them. These fruits contain the same odorous substance, limonene, but in mirrored versions. The lemon has the left one, and the orange has the right one. If we synthesize amino acids artificially, we'll always get exactly equal amounts of left and right molecules. But all of the bodies of absolutely all living organisms are built on left-handed amino acids for some reason. Why left-handed? Here, I should say that the farther scientists go, the more confusing everything becomes. It just blows my mind. To answer this question, we need to look at the whole universe. Asymmetry comes not from Earth. It has an extraterrestrial origin. Meteorites that come to us from far away also have amino acids, and most of them are left-handed. But why are they mostly left-handed? It is explained by a few interesting theories. One of the possible reasons is polarized ultraviolet light, which appears in the places where stars birth, such as the Orion Nebula. Such light destroys the right-handed amino acids, leaving the left-handed ones. It was the left-hand amino acids which once came to Earth along with meteorites that could form the living proteins, which are the basis of life on the planet. Perhaps somewhere in the universe, life is built on right amino acids. And so when we get there, We'll be treated to local food, but we won't be able to get full. No matter how much we eat, we'll starve to death because we can't use mirror molecules to build our cells. It's like the right and left hand, remember? But there's another theory, a deeper one, and it goes deep into quantum physics. Elementary particles rotate left or right around their axis. Not literally, but on a quantum level. But the simple electron is finicky. In radioactive beta decay, it chooses only the left direction. By a chain, it knocks out an avalanche of the same left-handed electrons, and they destroy all the right-handed amino acids, leaving only the left-handed ones. This is hard to believe, and now you'll probably say, whoa. But symmetry and asymmetry allow us to explain everything we know, everything we remember, absolutely everything existing in the universe. The matter forming the Earth, other planets, stars, our bodies, laptops, the camera I'm filming on, and the screen you're watching me on exists thanks to asymmetry. Yeah, I know, that sounds kind of wild and lame, right? But since the very beginning of the origin of the universe and up to nowadays, the space vacuum has been comprising certain amounts of matter and antimatter. According to the laws of physics, matter and antimatter constantly destroy each other at the same time, emitting a photon, a particle of light. Imagine a Tetris consisting of red and black blocks, which constantly collapse and disappear, leaving behind a bit of light. This light we can still observe in the form of relict radiation. The whole space, the whole universe, is filled with old light from these very outbursts. And now, imagine that in this fraction of a second after the Big Bang, for every billion black blocks, there would be one red block more. As a result, this red block would not be able to find a mate and get destroyed. These red blocks are the very stuff that forms everything we know, see, and feel. They are the particles that didn't find a mate among the antiparticles. Then, the gravity influence resulted in these particles forming clouds, stars, star systems, planets, and even humans. If the newborn universe had been perfectly symmetrical, with equal quantities of matter and antimatter, and per a billion particles, there would not have been that very small elementary particle, that very red block. Then nothing, neither planets nor stars, much less us, would have existed. And this map would have nothing except the light from the symmetrical mutual annihilation of those particles. We are the result of the superiority of matter over antimatter. The result of the asymmetry of matter and antimatter. The result of the struggle between right and left. Everything we may find in nature, spheres, fractals, spirals, animal spots, our bodies, heart position, circulatory system, two halves of our brain, and even the ability of two snails to have children, is built thanks to the interweaving of symmetry and asymmetry. Back billions of years ago up to nowadays, everything has been working according to the same laws. It really blows my mind. This amazes me very much. If you feel the same way as I do, hit the like button. And hit the like button if you want more exciting videos with such deep immersion. Also, you can comment about what you'd like me to talk about. And maybe soon, you'll see the video about the subject you chose on our channel. I'm very glad that you watched this video to the end, as well as pleased I told you this stuff. I hope you loved it. As always, pump your brains. Bye. We'll be thankful for your feedback. And don't forget to share the video. The camera's hot already. We spent 3 hours here recording this. The light is air. Yes, please open the windows. That was the hardest recording of all, but it's done!